Is early specialisation beneficial to athletes? It is an accepted premise that outstanding athletes are successful, amongst others because of the type and amount of their training. For many years there has been a lingering debate as to whether early specialisation in a sport actually benefits an athlete, or whether early diversification is actually more beneficial. Early specialisation means that an athlete would dedicate themselves to a sport from a very young age. For most sports, this is around the 7-year-old mark. However, in recent years, this is changing as some children are specialising as early as 5 years old. Early specialisation can be linked to the 10,000 hours talent pathway model by Exerc, which I looked at in my previous video. This concept suggests that it will take someone 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 44 weeks a year for 5.5 years to master their craft. As I stated in my previous video, for many coaches, especially at grassroots level, this pathway would not work due to a lack of time available with participants. However, in academies where the coaches have greater contact time with their participants, this could be effective and is known to be used in certain sports and sporting setups. Early diversification, on the other hand, means that an athlete takes part in a variety of sports. This would mean that they would be learning a number of different techniques and be improving their overall ability as a sports person. There are many skills that cross over into different sports. For example, a goalkeeper in football needs to have good hand-eye coordination, as does a rugby player or American footballer. Therefore, there would be training techniques and drills that would be used for both types of athletes. Early diversification can also be linked to a talent pathway. Sampling, specialising and investment by Cote et al. Sees participants go through a pathway that allows them to sample a range of sports over a period of time before they decide on which sport they feel they are best at. Whilst they may get slight guidance from coaches that they work with, the specialising and investment part of this model is geared more on the participant making the decision for themselves. Evidence suggests an advantage for those who specialise later, approximately 13 to 17 years old, and engaged in more diverse deliberate play before committing to one sport. As well as participating in a greater variety of different sporting activities, such individuals who develop more successfully into elite level sport show a reduction in the amount of deliberate practice subsequently required to become elite and remain at this elite level. For example, Baker et al. Found that eventually experts participated in more extracurricular activities than non-experts between the ages of 5 and 12 before starting to specialise. To illustrate this, Bloom highlighted that only 4 out of 18 elite tennis players specialised solely in tennis in the early years. However, even after the age of 17, when these experts had entered more advanced development years, they still remained involved in up to 3 activities for relaxation and cross-training purposes. Between the ages of approximately 6 and 12, evidence shows that there is a high frequency and variety of deliberate play. For example, this would be inherent fun, process-orientated and not monitored, and low levels of deliberate practice, for example, purposeful improvements, outcome-orientated and monitored, with the opposite being true, through the later investment stage, which is when specialisation in 1 or 2 main activities appeared to be paramount. Indeed, it is during the later years that a high amount of deliberate and structured activity appears to characterise and lead to world-class success, but not before. Of course, special consideration needs to be given to those sports that compete at an early age, such as gymnastics. But even here, many of the same considerations hold true. Varied participation and less pressured experiences enable youngsters to experiment with movement skills and develop many fundamental and transferable skills that are functionally significant for later development. These skills underpin development and adaptability for more complex sports, sport-specific skills. For example, technical, tactical, physical and mental. These are also known as holistical skills. Importantly, these early experiences also appeared to generate the level of intrinsic motivation and emotional attachment required to commit later down the line to the large amount of deliberate practice that is needed to become an expert and deal with the performance lifestyle without losing motivation. This makes sense because early specialisation and highly structured training is likely to take away feelings of choice and ownership, while prioritising external motives, which are key factors associated with a reduction in intrinsic motivation. This is also known to lead to dropout and burnout. Whilst many may argue that early specialisation in a sport is what every athlete who wants to make it to the elite level should do, I believe the evidence and statements we have discussed argue against that. Early diversification and the sampling of a variety of sports helps to confirm an athlete's decision about specialising and also increases motivation through enjoyment of the sport an athlete is playing.